Welcome to the weekly services of Buckman Bridge Unitarian Universalist Church. We begin today with special music from the violin master, Dr. Timothy Edwards, whose impressive bio is in the order of service. Timothy will be accompanied by our own Dr. Gary Smart playing La Cinquantaine. Translated means the 50th anniversary. It is a piece of light music composed by Jean-Gabriel Marie around 1887. Maestro. Thank you, Timothy. Dr. Smart. The opening words, titled, "We Practice Being Called," are by the Reverend Dr. Samantha Lynn Wilson. A call to worship is secretly a call to focus our attention. Choosing to focus our attention is countercultural. Daily, we are called to worship at the altar of many devices, surveillance systems. We take lead over our every waking moment. We are called by headlines set purely to activate and by tools that gamify our every human connection. We are not called, we are led. We are not led, we are entrapped. Instead, here. We practice being called. We are called to bring our attention to the altar of unpredictable human relatedness. We are called by these ancestors, this wood, this room's particular light, when lit this chalice's particular fire, and these children. We are called to focus our attention on a foolhardy and open-hearted commitment to share a future together we cannot cancel nor control. In the words of the poet-farmer Wendell Berry, we are called to do something today that does not compute. Spirit of life, call our collective attention to this precise moment, the threshold between then and now, the moment upon which we hang our honest promise like portraits, chiseled and framed by our own hands, imperfectly and together. Come, let us worship together. Please rise now and body your spirit for the singing of the call to worship. The words are on the screen and in the order of service. Time for all ages today will be presented by Mary Avery.
Good morning, everyone. I hope you all had a wonderful Thanksgiving. I don't know about you, but I had pie for breakfast. This is the weekend when we go from leftovers to lighting up the holiday season. In the next few weeks, we'll be celebrating both Christmas and Hanukkah. Hanukkah beginning only 2 weeks from today. Hanukkah is an 8-night Jewish celebration of light and hope. It remembers a time long ago when a tiny bit of oil, enough for just one night, lasted for 8, reminding people that courage and community can create unexpected miracles. Families mark the holiday by lighting a menorah, 1 candle each night. Today, we'll help welcome Hanukkah with a story that takes a fun and cozy look at this special tradition. The Night Before Hanukkah by Natasha Wing, illustrated by Amy Woomer. 'Twas the night before the 8 days of Hanukkah. Families were prepping from New York to Santa Monica. The children soon nestled all snug in their beds, while visions of chocolate gelt danced in their heads. The very next evening, our family gathered round. The Festival of Lights began right after sundown. Our menorah was set out by the window with care. It's an heirloom passed down from our great-grandma Claire. Dad put on his yarmulke, pinned it down on his hair. Then Mom lit the shamash candle after saying the first prayer. The flames, how they flickered, our faces cast in light. We sang Rock of Ages while the candles burned bright. Then we opened our presents. Oh, wow, earrings for me, and a building set for my brother, who's 3. The next night, we played dreidel. That's a top that you spin with 4 Hebrew letters, Nun, Gimel, Hay, and Shin. We each tossed a coin made of chocolate called gelt. I snuck one and ate it before it could melt. It was my turn to go. If it lands on Gimel, I win. But Shin turned up, so I put another coin in. Our dad won that game when our coins all ran out, but he divvied up his winnings. Sharing is what it's all about. On the 3rd night of Hanukkah, after the candles were aflame, Dad read the story of Jewish heroes. Maccabee was their name. "Let's take back our temple," the Maccabees led with a shout. The Jewish people fought and won. They kicked the enemy out. Then they cleaned their holy temple and prepared to kindle the light. But the lamp had so little oil, it could burn for only one night. So they prayed for divine help, and help came indeed. The lamp stayed lit for 8 days. God had met their need. Before their wondering eyes, a miracle took place, the glory of Hanukkah for all Jews to embrace. On the 4th night, we ate latkes, deep-fried potato pancakes. On the 5th night, jelly donuts, the ones my Uncle Dan makes. On the 6th night, we visited cousins. It's a family tradition. The aunts made gravy and brisket. Yummy smells filled the kitchen. On the 7th night, to share our happy Hanukkah mood, we brought presents for others and lots of holiday food. On the 8th and last night, Mom had bad news to report. I don't know how this happened, but we're 1 candle short. "Don't worry," I said as I pulled a drawer handle. "We can use this one," I cried, "a birthday cake candle." Mom placed it on the menorah, then lit them all left to right. Dad reminded us that, like our faith, they burned bright. As the last candles burned, like they had for 8 nights, we wished a happy Hanukkah to all, the festival of lights. As we enter the holiday season, may we remember what they all share: moments of gathering, moments of giving, moments of love and light. Whether we celebrate with candles, cookies, stories, songs, or all of the above, let us carry this spirit of gratitude forward from Thanksgiving into everything we do.
As the song leaders come forward, will you please rise, if willing and able, to sing together the opening hymn, number 347, Gather the Spirit. It's a page turner, but the words will also be on screen. Y'all sounded great. I invite Valerie Buffard forward to light the chalice and to remain to light the first Advent candle. The Light Within Us by Brian C. Lee. We light our chalice as a symbol of the light within us and the life that flows through the world around us. It is our beacon as we search for truth. It is the warmth in our hearts for love, and it is the energy that propels us to action. May we be kindled by our time together. Many years ago, thousands of years ago, people in the northern hemisphere were thought to have gathered wreaths of evergreen and lit fires as signs of hope in the coming of spring and renewed light. The custom was kept alive by Christians, and by the 16th century, the Advent wreath had gradually spread across many parts of the world. Today, Advent is the period of 4 Sundays leading up to Christmas. It is also a time when the days are shortest, when cold settles in, and when people need the cheer brought by the promise of light and warmth. As we light one more candle each Sunday, this Advent wreath symbolizes our waiting experience. Week by week, the candles remind us that the darkness of fear and hopelessness recedes as more and more light is shed into the world. The flame of each new candle reminds us that more is yet to come. On this first Sunday of Advent, we light this first candle of hope with the words of Macrina Vindelker, a Benedictine monastic who said, "I was just thinking one morning during prayer how much alike hope and baking powder are, quietly getting what is best in me to rise, awakening the hint of eternity within." May this candle awaken the best in us, connect us to the eternal, and give life to our hope. Thank you, Valerie. Yeah, you can leave the lighter. Good morning again, and welcome to Buckman Bridge Unitarian Universalist Church. That's a long name, so we often use the abbreviation BBUUC. We have a busy little church, and we are buzzing with excitement to be hosting the annual World AIDS Day Memorial Service being held here tomorrow, December 1st at 7 p.m. BBUC is proudly facilitating this event, and several of our members are part of it. Please attend if you can. In connection to this event, our own Manny Andrade, along with Mayor Deegan, will be downtown Jacksonville earlier in the day displaying more of these beautiful AIDS memorial quilts. It'll be on the City Hall lawn, and it starts at noon, but parking being what it is, you might want to get there early. Our annual Jingle Mingle, our all-generation holiday celebration, will be held December 13th from 5 to 8. The link will be sent out this week to sign up. If you enjoy singing and are interested in joining our BBUC Christmas Choir, also known as Christmas Choir of the Moment, come and join us after the service today. Up here on the chancel at noon, the choir will rehearse 2 selections for Christmas Eve service. Even if you can't be there on Christmas Eve, we invite you to join us for rehearsals for the simple joy of singing. Marilyn will be leading rehearsals each Sunday at noon until the Sunday before Christmas Eve, which is the 21st. Gary will also be at rehearsal to accompany the choir. Sheet music will be provided, so come join us in singing the holiday tradition. Poinsettia sales start next week. For order forms will be in the journey and the weekly email. If you are interested in becoming a member, we regularly offer Learn About UU classes. Please stop by the welcome table at the entrance for more information to sign up for a clip-on name tag. We welcome all of you to our service, especially those of you who are searching for a spiritual home. Many of us were once, too, seeking for something larger than ourselves for which we could belong, a sense of rootedness to hold us as we create meaning together. We do that well here, though not perfectly. In this congregation, we strive not for perfection, but for authenticity and connection. We are a lay-led congregation and a member church of the Unitarian Universalist Association. The values we covenant to affirm and promote are listed on the back of your order of service, with love as the power that holds us together. Love at the center of the shared values of interdependence, pluralism, justice, transformation, generosity, and equity. Whether it's your first time to worship with us or your 100th time, we hope that you will find here questions that stretch you, people to befriend you, and liberal religious values that challenge you to join us in loving boldly, living justly, and welcoming radically. May we root ourselves in the value of this faith, a faith based on covenant rather than creed. Our congregation's covenant can be found on the screen and printed in the order of service. Let's recite it together. We covenant to engage one another with honesty, kindness, and respect, to value diversity, seek understanding of our differences, and practice gracious accountability with care, love, and empathy. We make these promises to those who are here and those yet to come, so that we may be a safe, welcoming, and beloved community of acceptance, learning, and transformation. pass the plate during our worship service to make a community expression of thanks for the blessing of abundance, to visibly bring in the harvest at the most cherished hour of our week. We know that our financial contributions to this congregation come from sacrifice and hard work. We are so grateful for this and commit together to ensure that the funds we gather collectively do a greater good for ourselves and our world than they could have done alone. May the offering sustain and grow the life and mission of this congregation. May we give in love and in hope. Even if you choose to contribute electronically via the QR code in the order of service, please continue to share your good energy and pass the plate to your neighbor. Today's offertory ushers are Chuck Smithers and David Rulison. The offering will be followed by hymn 123, Spirit of Life. The reading today is a poem by the Reverend Max A. Coots. It's number 489 in the gray hymnal. Where love is felt or fear is known, when holidays and holy days and such times come, when anniversaries arrive by calendar or consciousness, when seasons come as seasons do, old and known, but sometimes new, when lives are born or people die, when something sacred sensed in soil or sky, mark the time, respond with thought or prayer or smile or grief. Let nothing living slip between the fingers of the mind, for all of these are holy things we will not, cannot find again. Our speaker today is Dr. Mark Yount. He has been a member of BBUC for 28 years and has given us over 125 sermons. You can read more about him in the order of service. Today's sermon touches on the sensitive subject of intentional death. Mark will be sharing the experiences he had with his father and the subsequent challenges to live intentionally, with the sermon titled Intentional Death, Intentional Life. Mark, the pulpit is yours.
Thank you, Kris. My father died February 7th, 2015, at the age of 89. He had no terminal condition. He was not in chronic pain. He just decided he had no reason to live. I've shared this story before, and if it were only about my dad dying, there'd be no reason to revisit. But even then, it was really about the meaning that I took from his death. How could I carry that meaning forward in my own life? So I'll tell it a little differently this morning because life goes on, and I've had to find my way back to that question. How can I live just as intentionally as my father chose to die? A hospice worker once told me that people get uncomfortable thinking about death after 3 seconds. As a philosopher, I might add, unless they're an existentialist. For the existentialist, to be human is to know you are going to die. So our lives can only have human meaning in the face of our mortality. My father was neither philosopher nor existentialist, but described himself jokingly as a non-practicing agnostic. Think about that for a moment, and it's harder to think it's a joke. Maybe something like, I have no idea whether there is a God, but I can't live like that. But he did live like this. He lived like this is the only life we can know, and lived it more fully than most of us are able. We've been a close family, and the October before Dad died, I stayed with Mom and Dad to help them manage when Dad came out of rehab after a mishap. Quite in character, he tried to lift some heavy machinery by himself, to the chagrin of his elderly back. The pain was manageable. He and Mom could navigate the cords and tubes of his oxygen. He didn't have a thing his doctors thought he might die of. But there was something already diagnosed, clinical depression. He had become the grumpy old man. Irritability is one thing, and in fact, a thing my father and I had shared much of my life, too. But he had always favored reason over emotion, proaction over reaction, the larger good over the immediate urge. Now, he'd finally seen a psychological counselor, but he stopped taking his antidepressants. I worked in behavioral health. To me, this is obvious stuff. Okay, so try a different med. Grumble. Try a different therapist if you want. Harumph. I would say all the Captain Obvious things, but he wouldn't budge. For many years, my dad had worn a seasonal sweatshirt, bah humbug, but he always wore a smirk along with it. No longer. This is how my father put it, quite cogently. If there were a switch on the wall that I could set every night before I went to bed, for whether I wanted to wake up in the morning or not, I would always put it on not. I tried, but there wasn't a lot to say after that. I came back to Florida after New Year's to resume being actively unemployed. My mother's 89th birthday was January 25th, and it was only a couple of days after that Dad called to tell me that he had decided to end his life by not eating or drinking. This was not open to discussion. There was no question he meant it, and no question of anyone stopping him. But I thought, I'm a mandatory reporter. He has decided on suicide while he's in a clinical depression, operating on a central nervous system depleted of essential neurotransmitters, stubbornly refusing medication. I absolutely had a duty to inform and persuade him if I possibly could. So I gave it one last best shot. I stayed up all night after that call, writing him the most compelling email I could muster from my authorial talent and loving heart. I repeated my best arguments and piled on, too. When telling your oldest son what matters most in life, would the answer have been resignation? Dad's decision was in character of late anyway, but how he decided had too much grumpy old man and not enough, this is how it's done, son. In the morning, I called Dad, told him I'd put my thoughts in an email, then told him I wasn't going to argue with him, that I was driving up to be with him, to help him and Mom in any way I could. I want to interrupt, pardon me if I get emotional here, because I want to interrupt my story at this point to address you in this here and now. I feel something like a duty to make absolutely clear that my decision to help my father, to aid and abet him, if you will, was not based on his, quote, right to die. Our sympathy turns easily to the old and infirm, but I hope that no one in this room would say that a 29-year-old who wanted to kill themselves because they were clinically depressed and didn't like the side effects of their medication, I hope none of you would say that that person had a right to die. The suicide rate among our young makes me sick to my stomach and proves to me that ours is a sick society. So please, don't take from my words this morning anything that could possibly make it easier for someone to kill themselves. Please. I apologize for that. I'll take a deep breath, but that is so important and the issue so deep that I couldn't go without saying it. So, deep breath, always a good idea. This is what I will say about my father's decision and about my decision to help him. There's a difference between a right and a privilege. I would say my father earned the privilege to make his choice in a way that no teen or young adult could claim. He earned it by the arc of a life that spanned from potential through decades of living out the actual gifts that he embodied, decades of that. Even so, I would add that my father's choice was not justified, even if I grant him the privilege, not that it was mine to grant. Not justified because no set of reasons or conditions in his life was sufficient to settle his end in that manner. So the choice was not a right, and it was not the right choice. What about my very Christian mother, his wife of 60 years? And by way of the suicide issue, doesn't almost everyone have someone that they would never want to hurt? And wouldn't that be exactly the person hurt most if they killed themselves? I realize now that my decision to just go up and be with my parents followed a change in my own ethical philosophy. I went to be with my dying father not out of respect in any rational sense. Rather, I decided to err on the side of empathy. to be with someone, just with them, not to argue or even to influence the situation. That is empathy. I was following an ethic of relationship that Carol Gilligan called the ethic of care, as opposed to ethics of justice. And that also seemed to be my role in the family in those times. To be with them was just right. I had no doubt of that. But I was still unsettled, upset, of course. I wept a lot on the drive north, but also unresolved. What did any of this mean? Then, still driving, still tearful, talking it out with a friend, I got it. I flashed on an image of a child at a mostly empty dinner table, a few cold peas on the plate before him, saying, "Can't I just be done?" That's it, isn't it? That's exactly it. Now, I could see it from his side. Not that Dad and I would wax philosophical about life and death. It's the physical side of dying I had to be there for. That's what you do for family. He waved off the morphine his last night, but then later accepted the nurse's offer. In the morning, he seemed peaceful as I kept my vigil. I wasn't sure when he had died, but I was sure he had lived his life full. I was sure he had loved life in living it. That, finally, was what brought me to the meaning I'd been missing in my unsettled state. Perhaps the faith of the non-practicing agnostic is faith in life through all its uncertainty. Perhaps the non-practice is to stumble, stagger, stride, sidle, and swing your way through along, never expecting there's an answer from beyond or a definitive Arthur Murray dance to illustrate the proper steps. Dance book to illustrate the proper steps. By the time I gave my father's eulogy, I not only respected and accepted his decision, I could find in it something noble. Recalling that little boy who wants to be excused, this is how I memorialized my father. Life did not let him down, and finally, he did not let life down. Dad wanted to honor life, so he only wanted to live as long as he could do so. And he felt he could no longer hold up his end of the bargain. As the family recessed from the sanctuary, those gathered sang, "I'll Fly Away." My father got his pilot's license before his driver's license, and I imagined him delighting in spiritual aerobatics. Calls for another sip of water, don't you think? So that's the main story. Ending with my father's peaceful death and me at peace with his decision. But I was not at peace with my own life. How ironic that my engineering dad was a better existentialist than his philosopher son. That non-practicing agnostic had squeezed more juice out of life because this is our only sure chance to taste what life has to offer. Can I perhaps blame Plato or Buddha for coloring multi-lived me the eternal slacker? I didn't think so either. My life's next chapter took me just where I wanted to go. I ended my 2015 sermon this way. As I dive into my new work, I feel myself enthusiastic and animated. I imagine coworkers saw in my face the love of life that I so often saw in my father's. I'm thankful for that, for his life, for mine, for the love in which those lives are gathered or joined. But plots thicken as they go, don't they? And we surely have learned that growth takes us through the dark on the way to light. In my case, however true my compass, I had to map these intervening years as I made my way, I lost the feeling of life. I had to map those intervening years over a terrain that the psychologists call mixed trauma. And in that, I lost the sureness of my feeling for life. I am finding my way back to a secure feeling of life. Life, bless its heart, has ingredients that can harm our ability to live, that can sap our vitality and even undermine us. That's what happened to my father. But I have a different end in mind for my life. To feel alive, vitality. For Gestalt therapist Fritz Perls, this was the essence of therapy, to come alive to the here and now. Life is my process of living. Living is doing, activity of my lived body, to use a sturdy existential expression. Lived because it is my own, but body nonetheless, not only an embodied, soulful me. In this life my father left, I am this body. Which means that my feeling for life isn't just made of meaning, but of molecules, genes, epigenetic switches, hormones, neurotransmitters, gut biomes, and the telomeres that literally hold our nerves together so that I never come literally to the end of my nerves. The year Dad died, I read Bessel van der Kolk's 2014 book, The Body Keeps the Score, which is still on the paperback's bestseller list. For me, it's been a labor to restore my resiliency, to free my inner child from the grumpy old man I so risk becoming, who takes over the steering wheel while I rage at the driver ahead of me. Which is to say, I'm trying to rebuild my character into one who will choose differently from my dad. I want to live on purpose, to set my switch every day, to wake up. Here's a simple way to frame the difference at stake. I honored my father's love of life. I gave him credit for an attitude I could script to philosophy. He didn't want to live if he couldn't keep up his end of the bargain. As if love of life is always already a relationship. I am related to my life. So be it then. Imagine a relationship and life herself as a character answering back to my father. Done so soon? Is that all you've got? That would be fair. So, how is my relationship with life? I once had a romantic partner too conflicted in her own life to give or receive what love required. Am I too conflicted to truly love life? Too well defended? Too constricted? Or am I all in? If we are honest with ourselves, we know. We know because if we're willing, we can look. Because it shows in the living. That's the only reality that really is endured. As one of Dylan's pithiest lyrics puts it, he not busy being born is busy dying. The group Dawes takes that an existential step further in When My Time Comes, an apt title for this talk. Well, you can judge the whole world by the sparkle that you think it lacks. Yes, you can stare into the abyss, but it's staring right back. How many of us judge the world or judge life or judge our life by the sparkle that we think it lacks? But how many of us have felt desolate? How many have felt joy beyond words? The philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche measured all values and all truth by the love of life. Perhaps his most profound insight was this: to say yes to one joy is to say yes to all woe, because it is all one connected whole. Perhaps David Rulison or some other mystic among us has even had the lucid experience that everything is perfect, exactly as it is in exactly this moment. Yes, life does diminish us in some ways in the process and the grind of living. I've aged to where I have to accept that life will bring trials for which I will lack the strength to say yes. But I can still hope to reply, "Not now, dear. Lick my wounds and live for another day." Life is never exhausted. As I was rewriting this part last night, I was overwhelmed by music from a mix I made a few months ago. Linda can vouch for it. There will come a day when I can no longer run a 30-second crossfade into Coldplay's 2013 performance of Yellow. But the stars will still shine, and even if my memory goes as my mother's did, I might still sing along. When I mentioned that song to the Deacon youth, it struck me that the last part of the song is a benediction. How can life ever be exhausted when there will always be another song, when we might bring new ears to timeless music? I leave you then with this. It's true. See how they shine for you. Look how they shine for you. Look how they shine. Thank you.
Will the hymn leaders come back to the dais as we rise one more time in body or spirit to sing the closing hymn, number 409, Sleep, My Child, and please remain standing for the benediction. I love that song. Valerie, thank you for returning to extinguish the chalice. Our faith, like a light, illuminates the path before us so that we can face hurt with love, cultivate compassion, live humbly in community, and confront despair with the awe of life. Though our flame is extinguished, our faith shines through bright before us. Until we come together again, I bid you peace. Amen, namaste, and blessed be.